Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, and I'm here today with Russ Jeffrey. We're going to talk about writing and books and other stuff. So, Russ, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this for ages.
Yeah, it's been a little while. I took the day off because you're in the UK and I'm here in America. So,
Oh, thank you for taking the day off. I
no,
appreciate
it was a great excuse I needed a day off, so it worked out. It worked out great. But for people who aren't familiar with you, what books have you written? Kind of what's your work? What's your specialty?
So I'm kind of new to it all, really. Like, I think I only started kind of releasing stuff during lockdown because it kind of gave me an excuse. But I've been writing for years. But I think with lockdown, it was just that excuse to try a bit harder and do a bit more. And so I released my book Juniper. So it's a novella. It is part of an ongoing series, which includes the Bram Stoker nominated Tome, which is a bigger beast. I'm not going to get them all out, just show you a few. Tethered, which is a novella in Flash about father and son. I have also released recently Only the Stains Remain, which is, oh, there you go. You got a proper copy. I've still got the not for resale one. And yeah, other bits and bobs, and yeah, I predominantly write horror, but it's some of it's a bit weird,
Yeah.
bit dark, bit strange. But I think when people meet me, they're like, "Are you the person that?" Because you don't come across like that weird person that wrote that book. But well, let's see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's I've got some bits in anthologies and whatnot, and I have I'm currently working on the third book of the Juniper series now, and I have a novel, which this is an exclusive for you because
Oh, wow.
I haven't told anybody yet.
A ticker to add here.
Yeah. But it was originally called Hostage, but I have now changed the title to The Devil's Pocketbook. And that is currently just marinating in its own grime behind the scenes until I kind of work out what's going to happen with it. But yeah, very excited about that, and I've had some like really cool people read it and give me some blurbs, and yeah, I'm just excited to see where that goes, because for me that's kind of I personally think it's my best book, and it's kind of set in Paul Perot in Cornwall, in the UK, and yeah, it's a kind of unsettling horror, what should I say? But yeah, that's me in a nutshell, just unsettling.
Unsettling, yeah, that's a good way to describe it. That's a good way, yeah. After only the Stains Remain, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before we came on about you were writing and you lost your file as you were. So tell us about that.
Well, Bill Gates coming for you. But no, I was writing all this morning. I took this week off to kind of get some headway in the new book, which is called Scorched, which is part 3 of Juniper, and it's been going really well. Sorry, I've got a cough and a cold, so I apologise for anyone watching or listening. And yeah, I've been hammering it out this week, and then today I did around about between 5,000 and 8,000 words, and very, very happy with it, because it's the third book as well. It kind of incorporates the previous 2 in certain ways, and this whole section that I wrote was quite detailed and long, and really good. I thought it was really good, and it was just going really well. And then I went out to get a haircut, came back, turned on the computer again, and I had the spinning wheel of death, and I thought, that's okay, because I save it and it's auto saved, and then it just crashed, and then when I opened it again, it hadn't even registered that I'd worked on it at all today, so it must be some massive glitch. And yeah, I lost all the kind of 5,000 to 8,000 words, just gone in an instant. So if there's any writers out there, just keep on backing up your stuff. Even though I do, stuff still happens.
That's scary.
but yeah, it's a proper piss take because I I was really happy with it and really excited. And then after it happened, I went downstairs and told my wife, and I was just like, "You need to pray for me because I'm going to smash something up." Um, and then and I just sat down at the table trying to like remember what I'd written, and I couldn't because I was so angry. So, but I've done it once, so hopefully I'll be able to kind of redo it again and maybe even make it better. Who knows? But
there you go.
It is a ball ache. But yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta be really frustrating. And Ashley from Read Now Sleep Later is here. Raul reads. Buckara is at work and goofing off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course Jay's here.
Jay's always there.
Yeah, hello Jay, he's a good guy. Shenanigans always and forever shenanigans happening all the time.
Hello.
This guy Ross, he may have a future in writing.
Thanks, Jay. You may have a future in a different name. You're always changing your name. But yeah.
It's funny that I talked to Anthony Salfa about a month ago, who is the author of Birthday Treat, which is a great. I'm reading that now. I just came out a couple of days ago.
Very good book.
And yeah, I've been really enjoying it. And just hearing him talk about the group at Storgy, the group of friends, and listening to all of you interact, it made me want to start writing just so I can be in the clique. I was like, man, I'm going to take up writing to be a part of their little circle.
Yeah.
So,
Storgy,
Storgy. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a really special. Yeah, everyone gets it confused, but I think Tony said, it's lots of stories and in excess, orgy, storgy. There we go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been brilliant. Like I Tony and Tomek set it up originally, and then they kind of brought me on board when they wanted to kind of expand it and didn't really know what to do. So then I came in and I was like, well, let's do book reviews and contact authors and all this kind of stuff. And it just exploded, and it's been brilliant. And the kind of little community that we've made with the writers, like we published hundreds and hundreds of people, and some of those have been like first time writers, and we published their work, and then a couple of years down the line they're releasing their first book, and they're really grateful for what we've done for them. And we've also published like a couple of first time writers as well, because we got their original short stories and we're like, we like these people, let's give them a shot. And then they delivered manuscripts that needed to be kind of published, and yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. And it is like a little family that's going on down there. Oh, there's Brad. Hello, Brad.
Hey, Brad.
He's just got us. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know anything anymore. I'm still thinking about killing Microsoft.
Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like a great little circle of friends, and it's I'm sure you all bounce ideas off of each other, and kind of feed off each other. So it sounds like a great little system you guys have set up there.
Yeah, it's good. Like we all bring something different, and we're all, well, I would say, all very kind of talented. I'm going to float my own boat. Writers. I'm kind of educated, as in so is Tony, but Tomek's got a master's degree in English language and all that, and he edits and formats all the books, and then me and Tony get to kind of piss around and come up with crazy ideas for anthologies and whatnot, and write books as well at the same time. So it's pretty cool. And they're always there, like, and for each of us, like if we've got an idea and we want to bounce something off of someone, or we need someone to read it, we're all there, and we all give pretty harsh criticisms of each other's works, which is good because you don't want someone just blowing smoke up your ass all the time. And like this past year that's happened, so since January we've been doing like a every week we've been setting each other a short like a title, and then we all go away and write the title. It's kind of like what Storgy was originally. And then we come back the following week and read our stories to each other, and then kind of let each other know if things worked or if they didn't. And it's just a nice little kind of writing collective that's friends that enjoy books and don't mind telling each other if they've done something wrong. It's quite cool.
Did that take a little bit of getting used to, having negative feedback to that? When you first started writing, did it take a little bit of time to not take things personal?
Yeah. And I think I came from a point where I was because I was just writing for me, and I went on like a 7-year break from writing, because I was just, when I started, I was just writing stuff that I just really wanted to offend people with. Like I was just like, oh, that'd be really cool. Like in my angsty youth, I was just like, yeah, let me write stuff that's appalling and doesn't mean anything, but it's really graphic and violent, and I'll just get people that way, and they'll enjoy it or be shocked by it. And then I kind of like I stopped that, and just stopped writing in general, because I was just like, I'm just writing really dark stuff for no reason. And then when I started doing it, like writing properly, not that the other stuff wasn't proper, but taking actual steps to improve and everything, it was a case of getting used to that, because I never had anybody like give me it. They'd say, oh yeah, that's really good, or oh yeah, it wasn't for me. But then having people give, like these guys like Tony and Tome, like constructive feedback from my stuff, it took me a while to get into the mindset of, like, before I'd get it and I'd be like, well, yeah, okay, you said that, but it's perfect. So it took a while to get into that, and I've changed, I've evolved, I take everybody's criticisms on board now and treat them as they are, and if they have something good to say, let them say it. If I don't agree with it, I don't agree with it. But it's interesting, and it's a big learning curve as well. Not that I've had many bad reviews for my books, or any, I don't really think, but like it's just knowing that a reader is going to read the book and interpret it any way they want, and you can't have any say in that. Like if you've written something and Only the Stains Remain, for instance, like Mother Horror, she read it and did not finish it after a little while because she thought it was too much. I think I've just seen Leslie's in here from the Nerdy Narrative. She read it all the way through and did like a wonderful review that brought a tear to my eye. And just seeing how somebody else engaged with it compared to someone that just Mother Horror is Mother Horror. She reads horror. And she didn't finish it because she found it too upsetting. You never know what's going to happen. So I listen to everybody's criticisms. I don't get myself down on them. And just try to avoid all the dumpster fires that happen on Twitter.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid that sometimes.
Yeah.
And Keith Anthony had a question. Ross, just a thought. Did you try version history for your lost 5,000 to 8,000 words?
I don't even know what that is, but I tried pretty much everything on YouTube, but it didn't work. And I'm using Microsoft Word on a Mac, so it's a little bit different. And then somebody I sent it to a while ago came back to me and just said, could you check something? I checked it, and even my kind of the Microsoft Office package thing that I've got didn't even have a place to save any kind of files that were corrupted. It just wasn't in there. So I was just like, but thanks, Keith. Legend.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to get it back. And it sounds like Brad and Jay are planning they want to interview famous people too. So
wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Sounds like they're going to be contacting you to get on the show. They might call it paper cuts. I hear rumors.
I've heard that. I don't. It's strange, that paper cuts thing. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Bit of a peculiarity, that one. Sometimes they're there. Sometimes I watched one when Jay was on there and Brad just disappeared. Don't know where he went. It's an on-running joke, people. On-running joke, but there we
go. We mentioned reviews and feedback. Do you read all of your reviews that you get on Goodreads and Amazon and everywhere?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm probably at some point I will stop, but I'm just loving it at the minute. Like I don't mind, I love reading kind of if someone loved it, if someone hated it, I don't mind. I do mind if it becomes personal, as in a personal attack on the author, and I've seen some awful stuff. I saw one on, I think it's been taken down now, but it was on Goodreads, and someone had kind of read the book and gave it 1 star, and then in their review said, I would have given this 5 stars, but I found out that you're an immigrant, so I'm only going to give you 1 star, and and why don't you go back to your own country and stop taking our language and doing? And I was just like, what? Like, people just need to those people need to do something, but I'm not going to say. And then like Eric LaRocca, great guy, love him. His books are pretty much awesome. Like, I love him. Like, I love his style of writing. And I know people don't like his. Well, quite a lot of people don't like Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. Quite a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean you attack the guy for writing what he's written. Otherwise I'd be stuck writing books about white men with colds. Let writers write, and deal with it after, as long as they treat the subject matter respectfully. Do that. But like, some of the stuff that Eric got, like, people cussing him for what he looked like, and not even like looking into the fact that like he's queer. Like, they just assumed he was a white heterosexual male who's written something about lesbians, and it's like, come on, like, do your research before you start slagging someone off on the. Or don't even slag them off. Just do your research and then just give them a 1 star or whatever you want. But yeah, like, as long as it's not personal, as long as it's not attacking the author, I don't mind a negative review. Sometimes they sell books, and I've bought a fair few books from a 1-star review where they've said this wasn't for me because it was this and this and this, and I've gone, well, that's what I like.
Sure, yeah. And Brad had a question: how's Scorched coming along?
Scorched is coming along. It is currently at, well, it was earlier on today at 26,000 words. Obviously, we had an error, so it's gone back down to 19,000 words. But yeah, it's going great guns. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll move it. I might break something, but this is this is how I write a book.
Oh wow! Look at that.
So it's all broken up into. I'm going to take that away in case someone screenshots it. But yeah, that's how I kind of write a book. So it's all broken up into acts and what I'm writing about, and so I kind of like just look up there whilst I'm writing. And but yeah, it's going along well. I think fans of the books will enjoy it, and as all the books, they're written in a way where, if you picked up the second book and read that first, it wouldn't affect the other books. And likewise with this one, I've written it in a way that you get some hints about the other 2 books. And yeah, it's going really well. I'm loving it. I'm loving the characters. It's dark. It's a bit strange again. But yeah, it brings in lots of kind of threads, and I think fans of the books will enjoy it because there are references to other characters or other things that happened, and it's quite strange writing. Like, I don't even wish I'd, like, when I first started it, I said it's going to be a trilogy, and then I was like, what have I done? Like, because they're set in like Juniper. The first book is the middle book, and then you've got Tome, which goes kind of 17 years before Juniper. And then the new one, Scorched, is 17 years after Juniper. So the big time span. And I have spent, when I spoke to Stygia and Sky Media and they wanted to take the books and re-release them, and they asked for the third book as well, I was kind of like, yeah, that's cool. And then it took me probably about 3 months to like work out like how old certain characters would be, and like what was the name of the place that was mentioned in book 2 around the corner of such and such. And I was like, because someone will notice if I get it wrong. Like, someone will be like, you said that the dead Mexican bar was next to the post office, and it's not there anymore, it's down the road. So I was like, so I had to plan it all. But yeah, it's come along good. Words are flowing, so it's all good. But I'm hoping to have it finished, like the first draft, second draft, by Christmas, and then I'll kind of get it edited and go through it, and I'll send it to the Stygian crew to kind of see what they make of the final piece of the puzzle.
Nice. Do the different colors of the cards mean anything, or is it just organization?
Yeah, so the blue cards are normally just kind of information. So that might be like characters and places and certain kind of bits of information I've taken. The yellow ones are the different acts, and then the pink and green ones are just the chapters in between the acts. And then I got lots. There's lots of. I normally collate lots of bits of information. So this one deals, as the title suggests, with fire. So I've got certain bits from kind of like the Unexplained book about fires and all that kind of stuff, and I just kind of do that with it, just chuck it all up there and like hope it sticks and then see where it goes. But
that's a good idea. Did you have a map of the areas of the place, or did you just kind of keep notes for?
No, I don't have a map of it. I'd love to have a map, but I'm not I'm not that good at doing that type of stuff. But it's all in my head. Like I know what it looks like. I spent a lot of time there. But yeah, I'd love a map, actually. That'd be brilliant. But maybe some fan could do it. If I've got any fans, they could come up with a town. Who knows?
I've noticed that map making is a thing for books. I never realized that people actually create maps of. I've seen it a lot in fantasy books, but I thought that was really interesting that that's what they do all day is create maps.
Yeah, because I also like. I think. What is it? Patience of a Dead Man. Like even just maps of houses, like the internal what it looks like. Because I think that had a map at the beginning of it, and then I also read Amityville Horror the other day, and that had my version was different than lots of other people's, but it had maps in of kind of like the upstairs, what it looked like, and then the basement, and I quite like it. It breaks it up and makes it like interesting.
And Jay had a question. Any special bedroom scenes in Scorched, like Tome?
For those that have not read Tome, there's a bedroom scene in it that absolutely appalled Brad, and I think quite a lot of people that have read it. But and it's one of the only scenes that I've written that there's a couple that I have, but this one was up there that scared me whilst I was writing it. Like I wrote it when my wife was out. She'd gone away to stay and taken the kids away, and I was at home just kind of like hammering away at the keys, and then finished it. And then I reread what I'd read, and in Tome it's raining all the time, and that evening it was pissing down, like hitting the window and all that, and it was crazy. And I started reading it with the lights off, obviously, because I was working on my laptop in the dark like an idiot. And then like I was reading it, and I scared the crap out of myself, and then I kind of had to go to YouTube and watch videos of like cute dogs or something to kind of get over my fright. But yeah,
had to watch some kitten videos.
Too many kitten videos.
Bakara says, "I love that writing method. It's like a story map or something."
Yeah. I always talk about this when I'm on interviews, and I'll do it again just so it's a common thread. That when I went to university to study film. And Jay will probably drop something in the chat now about a box. But the best thing I learned at university was to get a massive box. And anything you found of interest, you just stick it in this box. So, it might be like you've seen someone and you jot down what they look like, or a bit of conversation, or you found a feather or a coin or something like that. And you put it all in this box. And then when it comes time to writing, you just open the box up, and you can like sift through all these like amazing kind of details that you've forgotten about, and you can kind of get characters from it and all that. And that's kind of what I do with my board. Like, I had with the Devil's Pocketbook, that all initially started from a kind of mermaid's purse that I found on the beach, and I've still got it downstairs, but like that was the kind of key that set it all rolling. And then like I sketch kind of what people look like, the characters. So then when I'm writing, I put them up so I can see what their faces look like and stuff. And yeah, it's kind of cool. I just like the visual of seeing something and not having to like flick through a book. Just so I can be writing and then just quickly get like a word or a scene that I've written down and then just put it into the book. It works for me. Tell Jared I want a map.
Yeah.
I'll tell him. I don't know what he'll do, but I'll tell him. But then if I tell him, he's going to ask me what he looks like, and then I've got to try and explain. I don't know. I'm sure we'll come up to it. I don't know. We'll see.
And, Jay says it's box time.
Box time, Jay. I hope Jay's got a box, because Jay mentions that every single time. He should get a box.
Yeah. And with Only the Stains Remain, what were some of your inspirations for the story?
Well, I initially wrote I was saying that myself and Tony and Tomek were doing those short stories, and we were sitting there one night, and it was Tomek's turn, and we all come up with really good titles. Tomek is one of those look and see what's around me type of people, and then we'll say like pen because it's here. And he had a packet of fags on his table, and it had like duty paid written on it, and he was just like, duty paid. So we were like, are your cigarettes next to you? He was like, yes. And that was the title, and then kind of I went away and wrote it, and it's kind of like it's pretty much the story of Only the Stains Remain, but told in just under 5,000 words. So it was quite quick and short and sharp, and a lot of information was left out, obviously. But and it kind of came from that, and I wrote that, and then read it to the guys, and they really enjoyed it and thought it was really good, and I just thought that was it. And I just finished The Devil's Pocketbook, and that was kind of sitting there to the side, and I kind of didn't have a project that I was working on, and I was just sitting there, and the character of Jude just wouldn't leave my mind, and it just felt like I was being haunted by this character, and every time I would sit down, I'd think about him, and I'd be like, oh, how did he end up like that, and like what led that person to do that, or to what were the kind of things that pressed in on him that made him kind of do the things he did, and so I just started really just jotting down information and like little scenes, and I didn't want it to be a big book, because I just wanted something quite short and sharp, and can cut you. So I started writing that one, and got all the pieces together and worked out kind of the family dynamic and who would be what and how it would work, and then I wanted to break it down excuse me, even further to like, okay, I've got 5 characters, I'll do 5 parts, and then each part will consist of 3, and then how do I get from there to there? And lots of people say that my writing style, like writing technique, is quite intense. Like I have lots of stuff planned out and how it will go, but for me, that's how it works when I write. Like I just, if I know that my book's 5 acts long, each act's got to have a certain amount of chapters, and each act should have the same amount of chapters, and it just balances out. And that's where that kind of came from. It was just initially a short story, and out of that kind of session that we've been doing with Tony and Tomek, I've had a few other stories that I've written that kind of keep coming back to me. So they may turn into longer books or novellas. I'm not too sure, but I just love writing. I just can't stop. And it's funny because it's come out of nowhere. I wasn't very good at English at school. And I had a horrible English teacher. She used to bully me, and I never used to read either. Like it's only since I got married that I've read as an adult properly. I just absolutely love it, and I love the fact that I can kind of affect people through my words, and in a positive way, and also and again I mentioned like Leslie, who was watching. I don't know if she's still watching, but like her review of Only the Stains Remain made me kind of well up, because obviously it deals with like some heavy topics, and she probably won't mind me saying because it's on a review, but she went through something quite similar, and she said that the writing in it made her feel validated. It made It was never glorified. It made her feel that she'd been seen. And for me to get that kind of reaction from a reader is just absolutely amazing. Like, you know, I write my books for me predominantly. Like, I write books that I want to read and the stories that I like. And the fact that someone else has kind of had that such profound and powerful kind of reaction to my work is just astonishing. And it's such a privileged position to be in, that people will pick up my books and have that kind of reaction to them. It just blows me away. Like, and you know, I've read books that have made me kind of like crumble at the knees, like Songbirds and Stray Dogs by Megan Lucas. Like, that destroyed me. But like, it's just amazing. Like, I love it. But that's a long-winded answer to how I wrote Stains, but there we go.
No, it was great. Keith Anthony says the elder brother device was the key piece of the puzzle for me.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Yeah, something that really struck me with Only the Stains Remain is that there's horror, there's ghouls and ghosts and demons or whatever, but this kind of horror is scarier because you can see these things happening. You know, these awful things have happened to people and probably happening now, and that's what made it scary.
Yeah, I think excuse me, what I love to write about is kind of monsters of men, so like, or women, you know, like just kind of really the evil that someone can do to someone else, I find is more scarier than, like, you know, like a zombie walking in the room and eating my face off now. But like, just how evil like humans can be to one another is something that just, it chills me to my core, you know, like just how, especially the subject matter of Stains, like, you know, child abuse and stuff. It's like, how messed up do you have to be to do that, and you know, and not even care? Like, it's just, yeah, it just blows my mind. And I love writing characters that are just vile and horrible people. I you know, the Warden Fleming in Tome, lots of people absolutely despise him. He was a lovely character to write, but yeah, I made him quite, you know, horrid, and yeah, people love it. I think as well, lots of people have said that the uncles in Only the Stains Remain are also quite, each terrifying in their own way of their depravity and what they do. And but yeah, again, like excuse me, there's no monsters hiding under the closet or vampires and things like that. It's just, yeah, what man can do to man, and yeah, it's just chilling. Like, yeah, it's not something I don't know. It's quite straight, and I wrote it as well. Like Stains, I'm just like, I wrote that into, but it's written in, like, it was quite challenging to write, but it doesn't glorify anything. And what I was kind of, because someone had told me to read, there was Josh Malerman told me to read The Girl Next Door, because I'd never read any Jack Ketchum. And lots of people were saying to me, or referring to my books, like, oh, that's very Ketchum-esque, and oh, he writes like Jack Ketchum, and I'd never read any. And I was kind of like, well, I should probably check this guy out. If people are saying I write like him, I want to know kind of if they're right, and, you know, what it's about. And I had a couple of his books that I just bought just because I thought, oh, I'll buy a few and then I'll decide which one to read. And then I was talking to Josh, and he said, he was like, if you're going to read a book by Jack Ketchum, read his best and read Girl Next Door. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'll read that. And I read it after I'd finished Stains. Yeah, I was like, yeah, actually, I can see the comparisons. I said completely different, but I said I could see kind of what he writes like and what I write like. And yeah, that book is, you know, it's dark. Have you read it?
The Girl Next Door?
Yeah.
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. It's dark, and, you know, lots of people didn't finish it, and again, Mother Horror didn't finish it. So I'm in good company, and yeah, and I was kind of reading it, and I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it is, and it is bad, but I think it's got this label of being this kind of really graphic, violent, book, and it is in ways, but I don't know. It wasn't as offensive as I thought it was going to be, with all these people that I'd seen that did not finish it, and this is disgusting and blah, blah. But yeah, it's each person to their own, and it just, for me, it wasn't as, there are scenes of torture and stuff and other bits and bobs, but then also there's a wonderful, I think it's just like a one sentence chapter in it, and it's like, I don't need to tell you what happened here, and then it's the next chapter, and it was like, oh, that's quite a nice way of pulling away from revealing all that horror, but yeah.
And Bukhara says, yeah, that's some of the scariest stuff, the stuff that could actually happen. And Brad Proctor is waiting for your vampire novel.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's taking the piss. He knows I'm not a big fan of vampires because they haven't really been scary since Let the Right One in my opinion. That's my opinion. Let me have my opinion, Brad.
And our friend Daniel Barnett is here.
Yay!
And Northwest Reader is also here.
Hello, everyone. Wow, this is pretty special.
And Saf just got here. Saf is here. Sorry I'm late. Got distracted watching Squid Game on Netflix. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
No, I've not seen it. I just finished watching Midnight Mass, which was brilliant. I loved it. But
yeah, we watched that with Daniel Barnett, who just popped in, and he said Ketchum knows exactly when to leave something to the imagination.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people have said about Stains. They said it kind of gets you to a point, and then I kind of pull away, which because I don't want it to be, gratuitous and kind of exploitative. Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah. I thought it was that word. I think I had one sip of this and I'm already drunk. I didn't want it to be like that. So kind of like lots of reviewers have said, I get them to a point where it's kind of said and left, and then the reader comes up with what they imagining is happening, and that's more scarier than anything I could write. Everybody's kind of interpretation of certain things is a lot scarier than I could ever come up with. So I quite like leaving things like that, like the old horror films of old, like Alien, for example. Like they hardly ever see the creature, and then that kind of keeps in your mind like what could it be, and like Stephen King's It as well, like especially that the book, like reading that, it's like there are details in here, but there's a lot missing, and you kind of come up with your own interpretation of what it is to you. But yeah, that's quite cool.
It's almost scarier than it is when it's just given to you. Leave it to your imagination. And how does the movie adaptation of The Girl Next Door compare to Ketchum's book?
I don't know. I've not seen it. I've heard it's quite graphic, but I've not seen the film. I'm in a bit of a strange phase at the minute, and films aren't really doing it for me.
It is.
It's I think also it's just the constant remakes of certain things, but I don't know. I'm finding quite a lot of love in just TV shows. But I used to be film mad. Like I still love film. But like books are just so much better. I just can't help it. But yeah.
So what were your non-spoilery thoughts on Midnight Mass? What did you think of it?
Midnight Mass is like one of my favorite subgenres of horror. So kind of religious horror. I loved it. I thought there was far too many long kind of just drawn out conversations that just took forever to finish, monologues. But like everything else about it, I loved. And I was a little confused, I have to say, at one point, because I couldn't quite work something out in my mind. I'm trying to think if I can say it, if it's spoilery or not, but I'm not. Excuse me. Well, just customs in America must work completely different than it does here, because that thing would never have got in this country, I'm telling you. But yeah, it's strange. I'm not too sure. Like, I loved the show. I thought it was brilliant. I thought the cinematography of it was amazing. The acting was just phenomenal. And I can't remember the woman's name, but the kind of priest woman that's with the father, like, she was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And yeah, the preacher himself was brilliant. Yeah, I loved it. I have a couple of issues, but I can't really talk about them because it's going to be spoilery. But yeah, I loved it. I wasn't a fan of The Haunting of Bly Manor, is it? I did watch it, but it wasn't as good as Haunting of Hill House for me. So I'm glad to see that Midnight Mass has kind of, increased my expectations, because I love the director as well. Like, he directed Doctor Sleep as well, didn't he?
I forget his name. It's slipped my mind, but yeah, he did Doctor Sleep. He did Oculus, Hush, and a couple other things.
Yeah, because I I have to say, I think after saying I haven't watched any films for ages, that Doctor Sleep was probably the last kind of most recent film I'd watched, and I thought it was bloody brilliant. Like, if anyone wants to make my books into a film, I'm giving them to that man, because after seeing Doctor Sleep, I was just like, yeah, that's pretty scary. I loved it. I thought it was really good. And I think episode 3 for me was a massive. It might have been 3 or 4. Was a massive highlight. I loved that episode, and that character acting and everything that went on was just chef kiss. Brilliant.
Yeah, some really good highlights. Bookara says, I started watching Midnight Mass too. I'm only one episode in, though. We'll maybe binge this weekend. And I think a lot of the people who had complaints about it had different expectations of what it was going to be going into it. I think the trailers I don't want to say misrepresented it, but I think you may go into it expecting something that you're not going to get, because it's not a jump scare type of.
No, I think I think the trailer does it a disservice, because it makes it kind of like this fast-paced thing but it's more slow burn, building up to a particular thing. But yeah, it's always the way though with trailers. Sometimes they just completely sell the wrong product.
Northwest Reader says, I hate the old age makeup. Yeah, it was distracting.
Yeah.
There's a point to it, but
there's a point. I was also thinking, why not just cast someone older that looks like that person, and then just gradually peel it back? But
yeah, it was pretty bad makeup.
Also, the other thing that really annoyed me, and it's probably my only kind of really big bugbear about it, was when Kate Siegel, was that her name?
I think so. Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to make a mistake, and I don't want to.
And thankfully, Saf is here to save me. They're always here to help me out, because I always get things wrong. Mike Flanagan. Yeah, so thank you, Saf.
Yeah, the only bit that really annoyed me, and I was like, come on, like, I can see that this production has had a lot of money thrown at it. Like, you know what I mean? And there was a scene with Kate Siegel, so Erin and Riley, and they were on a boat, yeah? This particular scene. I'm not saying anything else about it. And like, the water's choppy. Like, you can see in the background that the green screen that they're using, the water is choppy, and they're just sitting in the boat like two ducks, like just sitting there still. And I'm like, why is the boat not like doing this? Like, you can see in the background that these waves are coming like towards them, and they're just yeah. I was like, it should be like this. Like, come on, like, what's? But anyway, that's just a bugbear. But anyway.
David Butcher says, the vain, weak, domineering, wicked, loving, sick, tired, compassionate, or kind. There's so many types, and they all fit into our stories together. Without the good and the bad, has nothing to work with.
That is true.
Yeah, very good point. Brad says, he did Gerald's Game on Netflix.
Yeah, that was good as well.
And Jay says, this Mike Flanagan's wife is Katie, or is it Kate or Katie Siegel, I believe.
Yeah, Kate Siegel, yeah.
And yeah, you'll notice the boat, Northwest Region.
Yeah, you'll notice it, and then you can think of me just doing this. Come on.
In the background.
Well, if you look at the show though, like the production cost must be massive. So I'm just like, how could you just scrimp on that little one detail? You just have to have a lever under the boat to do that, and then you'd have been fine. Well, have me there.
Just ride back and forth.
But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a really good show. I loved the soundtrack. I'm not a big excuse me, I'm not a big fan of writing. I'll finish the sentence. But like writing with like stuff in the background. Like normally I write in where I am now when the kids are at school or my wife's out, and I haven't really ever listened to music whilst I've written. For Stains, it was the first book that I started just listening to kind of orchestral music and stuff like that to get like a feel for it. And with that one, so with Stains, I listened to the kind of themes of John Carpenter. So some of the Fog soundtrack and Christine and other bits like that. So that was that soundtrack. But for the new book, Scorched, it has predominantly been Midnight Mass soundtrack from start to finish on repeat. Like, it is just chilling, and I'm getting good vibes from it, and it's helping the writing go. And I kind of love all that hymnal music that's in it, and especially on the soundtrack. If you haven't listened to the soundtrack, use your streaming service, whatever you use, and just listen to it, because it is hauntingly beautiful. And then like you've got a few of those kind of hymnal tracks at the beginning, and then it goes into kind of the more atmospheric stuff of the show. But that's kind of currently, yeah, every time I sit down, I just put that on and leave it on repeat for the whole album. And yeah, and also it's quite calming as well, especially when I'm having issues with Microsoft.
Yeah. And Absentia was a great exercise in mood, and the ending showed that Flanagan is not interested in compromises. I think I've seen that. Oh, is it a TV series or the movie? I think I've seen the movie. Oh yeah, I think it's Flanagan's first movie is Absentia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. Oh yeah, I've not seen that one.
Yeah, it's his first one.
I've seen pretty much all his others, but yeah, again, I just saw Doctor Sleep again. It's making me want to watch it.
And Brad Proctor says there is a Midnight Mass book, Easter Egg, and Hush in Gerald's Game. Yeah, there's a book in both of those movies. I think Flanagan's been kind of throwing ideas around for Midnight Mass for 10 years, I think I read somewhere.
Oh, right.
So it's a long journey for Midnight Mass.
Well, so there's a book called Midnight Mass in both Hush and Gerald's Game.
Yeah, I think the character in Hush wrote a book called Midnight Mass, and then in Gerald's Game, there's a book on the shelf that is called Midnight Mass.
Oh, that's genius. What a legend.
Shared universe.
Yeah.
David Butcher says, but you still have to kill some of them.
Yeah, you have to kill your darlings every now and then. I don't like it, but sometimes it has to happen.
Is that tough to kill characters off?
Not if they're horrible bastards.
Well,
but if they're good people, yeah, it's different. I don't know. It's what the story calls for. If I found it difficult, more so that I'd spent a lot of time with this person and I'd kind of got to know them. I'm not telling you what book because it'll ruin stuff. But yeah, I spent a lot of time with this person, and it was kind of, yeah, there was only one way it could go, and I wrote it in the way that my hands were tied, and I was just like, damn you. But yeah, it's difficult, but I think as well, you know, it's also shocking and thrilling at the same time. Like, especially as a reader, like I've read books where I was like Brian Bowyer. I don't know if you've read his stuff. I think you have. Have you
Oh
not?
yeah. I read Sinister Mix.
Yeah. Like his stuff, you can never, ever, like, look forward to a character, because most of the time he builds it up and you're like, oh yeah, really loved it, and then it's like dead, and it's like, oh, okay. And then you start the next one, you're like, hopefully this person, no, dead. But yeah, like no one is safe in a Brian Bowyer book. Like he just, the hatchet flies and people just, and it doesn't matter if you're old, young, child, disabled, whatever. Like it's just no one is safe.
And they die in very terrible, awful, awful ways.
Terrible, awful, despicable ways. But again, like that's it's gold dust, especially when you're reading it and you know something's going to happen, but you just can't even imagine what is going to happen, and then he just tears it all up.
Yeah, there's a few stories of Sinister Mix that I was reading, and you thought the horrible points were gone, and then at the very end, I said, "Whoa, okay." Yeah. It got worse. With your writing, are there any lines you won't cross? Just that you set for yourself that you just won't do certain things in your book?
I would never do anything. I choose my words wisely here. That glorifies rape in any way. Like that's a no-no. Although Staines deals with certain issues and topics around that, is never kind of shown or broadcasted. It's strange. Like I don't really. I obviously have boundaries, but it's not like if it's hard to explain it, but like if I'm not going to go there, I won't go there. So I don't really know what it is until I'm actually in the zone. But definitely anything involving stuff happening to children is, for me as a father, it's just something that I'm just like, no, I'm not even going to entertain it. I would never write anything blasphemous. I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to go there. So although I do challenge myself in writing stuff that is, Tome has a quite heavy good versus evil kind of side of thing, and it's a way how I can kind of address certain things that I've found not right in church, and kind of what is allowed and what isn't, and kind of all that type of stuff. But I'd never write anything kind of blasphemous or as the devil or whatever. But that's just me. I do write characters that might share that idea or are blasphemous and all that kind of stuff. But I'd never write any book that is against what I believe in. And it's strange as well, because I write horror, and stepping into church and someone says, "Oh, my husband's a writer," and then they come to me and they're like, "Oh, what do you write?" And I was like, "I write horror." You just see them kind of like, back away. But yeah, it's interesting, and and I said at the start, like I think a lot of people read Juniper and they're kind of, it's a bit weird, and then they kind of look at you a bit funny afterwards. Like, I'm not quite sure about this, man. But yeah, I think mainly it's just stuff about children, anything blasphemous. That I really stay away from. Everything else is on the cards. I'll give it a go. If it's hitting the kind of like a trigger for me at a certain time, I probably won't develop it further than what it is. Another thing, like I won't go into trigger warnings or that kind of stuff. I watched that episode.
Okay.
And so I won't go into that at this point. But what I will say is, my auntie, she died years ago of she went missing, so she just disappeared when I was about, I can't remember, about 3 or 4, and didn't see her again until I was about 18, and then she kind of turned up on the doorstep, and I had my auntie back, which was amazing. And then like a few years later, she died of a heroin overdose, and she'd been a heroin addict since she'd disappeared. She'd been a heroin addict all that time. So heroin kind of use and kind of that type of stuff does affect me in a way. But if it's done well, it doesn't. It's just if it's kind of glorifying it, and if it's very graphic details about that type of use. And my day job, I work with the homeless, so I deal with that kind of stuff quite a lot. And but I have to say, like, if you deal with it in a good way, like Chad Lutsky's Wallflower is all about heroin usage and someone trying to discover it and how they get hooked and all that kind of stuff. And when I first picked it up, I was like, am I gonna like enjoy this, or is it gonna be one I have to put down? But because again, it's how you deal with the subject matter, and if you're going to take time and dedication in approaching it in the correct way, then even someone like me who has those kind of issues with it is not kind of overly assaulted by it. And yeah, it's just how you kind of write stuff in. I don't know where that whole question or answer came from. It just sprung up. So, but this is the show where you come to chat, isn't it?
Exactly. Ashley says, I don't know if I should be happy or paranoid that disabled characters would be fair game.
Yeah, it's it's extreme horror, he writes. So he just swings that hatchet.
Yeah. The hatchet swings. In the age of hard-boiled pulp novels, Brian Bowyer would be as popular as Jim Thompson. David Butcher says, I haven't read any of your novels. Do you write likable but evil bad characters? Have you been in a situation where you don't want to kill a character but sort of have to for the book itself? I think you kind of went over that a little bit, but
do you write likable? Yeah, I have excuse me. When I was writing Tome, I know a fair few authors that I adore because they're amazing, and working through Storgy, I've been able to kind of interview them and get to know them, and we've just shared and stuff. And I sent an early copy of Tome to, was it Tome? Yeah, I think I sent an early copy of Tome to Priya Sharma, who is a fabulous author, and she kind of came back to me and said, yeah, this is good, but it needs a little bit of work around the likability of your bad character, which was the Chief Warden Fleming. And she was kind of like, at the minute, he's very kind of caricature-y bad guy. Like, we don't get to like him. He's just evil all the way through, and there's no redeeming features, or there's nothing that you can't see how he became this thing that he is now. Like, you need to kind of make and so I kind of went away and worked on that, and excuse me, and yeah, kind of went back into it, drilled down into kind of who he was, and worked on some of his, and this is kind of the second book I've written. It was like a novel as well, and it was a big step up from what I used to do, and I was kind of like, okay, I've got more words to play with here, so I can, maybe introduce a little bit about why he was like that, and how he became, this racist kind of person that he is, and I did those changes, kind of sent it back to her, and she came back and was just like, spot on, like you've done it, like that's what you need, and I learned from that and you only learn from kind of taking on advice, like we said at the beginning, like that bad characters can have some redeeming qualities. They don't always have to be this horrible thing or this devious monster type thing, but and yeah, that's helped me kind of craft characters moving forwards, and especially with the third book, like I'm kind of tackling lots of, because in Tome there's in Juniper, sorry, there's this kind of, and in Tome there's this kind of big racial undertone that's going through, and this kind of white town with these kind of black kind of periphery characters that are seen as pariahs, and I've kind of said it like, I haven't really set a place, but it's kind of like southern states ish, and it's called Juniper. It doesn't exist, people. It's fictitious, and yeah, but I just wanted to kind of like challenge these things that I feel are completely incorrect, about racism, and sexism and homophobia and stuff like that. But I've had to build this town and populate it with these horrible people that say some really heinous stuff to to the characters that that they're trying to offend. But in doing so, I'm able to challenge those stereotypes and build on what I perceive as kind of that is evil, like racism. I absolutely hate it. It's disgusting. But I've had to build that into the books to be able to then challenge that in the books. And there's a long afterword in Tome that goes into that a bit more. And kind of my headspace when I was writing it was kind of around the George Floyd issue that happened in America. And so I'd kind of written most of the book by then, but then that kind of happened towards the end of me writing. And I was just like, stuff never changes. And it's not just in America, it's like everywhere. And if we're not going to use the platforms that we've got to kind of answer those kind of questions or challenge perceptions of people, then for me, like, what am I doing if I can't even try to do some good in creating these evil characters that I can then either butcher terribly or get across some kind of change in them for good, or that furthers the story and furthers a dialogue with kind of dealing with those big issues. But I do write likable bad characters. They're not very likable, but they're there.
Jay says, yes, let's get into TWs again. And then Ashley is ready to leave because she was there too.
Yeah. That was a fun one for you.
Oh yeah. That was a good one. Jay says, Wallflower is great because of how it's presented. It doesn't glorify anything.
Yeah.
Do you do anything to improve your writing, whether you kind of hone your craft? Do you go through any kind of exercises or tips or anything you have?
Absolutely nothing. The only thing I do, as I said, wasn't very good at English. The only thing I do is read voraciously. I read everything. I read outside my genre of horror, and I read the only thing I don't read, and I'm sorry if I offend anybody here, is I don't read much fantasy because I just don't. And I don't read kind of romance. They're the only kind of two genres that are not there for me in any way. But yeah, just reading and writing are the best ways to learn, for me especially, how to do it and do it well. And like if you look at, trying to think, like Donald Ray Pollock's work, for instance, like I love the man, like he's brilliant. Like his words are just amazing. Like how he writes is just beautiful. And James Fry, who did A Million Little Pieces, he was one of the first people I kind of read when I started reading properly, and it just blew me away because his kind of sentence structures are non-existent. They're just couple of words, full stop, a couple of words, full stop, one word, full stop, and then it's just kind of, he wrote the book how he wanted to write it, and it's just teaching all the time, and like Chuck Palahniuk, again, one of my favorite writers, like he kind of got me into reading and writing, and I've learned so much from just reading his books over the years. And then he did a kind of writing book called Consider This recently, which was again like phenomenal. And I've read stuff like Stephen King's on writing, and I'm currently also working through Tim Wagner's what's it called? Something in the Dark. Writing in the Dark. And then kind of Margaret Atwood's kind of books about writing. And I do it that way. I'm not really an academic at all. And it's quite strange because my children come home from school and tell me all these amazing words. Amazing words, but kind of, I'm trying to think of, trying to think now. the proper words you use to kind of describe something, like I don't know, like a verb or adjective and all that, but then all these other kind of random words I've never even heard of. They're like, oh, do you know what a subjunctive clause is and all this? And I'm just like, I have no idea. And then they'll tell me and I'll be like, oh, that's just me writing. That's what I do anyway. I just don't know the word for it. I'm probably coming across really uneducated here, but I don't really care. And it's strange. And, you know, I've got a video on my YouTube channel where when I was writing Juniper, it was going to be with an independent publisher, and they kind of sought me out and kind of like, okay, we like your writing, could you send us it and we'll have a read? And I sent it to them and they said, okay, we really liked it, we're going to send it to a published author who's going to kind of read it and kind of give us a recommendation of whether we publish it or not. And he went away, read it, and then came back and was kind of sent me a 2-page email of all the reasons why I should stop writing.
Really?
Yeah, I've still got it in my drawer. I use it as a kind of but yeah, so I kind of like and it was just kind of like, you don't know what you're doing. I'd put this back on the shelf, leave it and come back to it later, go back to short story writing because you're not any good. You know, there's issues with spelling, issues with grammar and word formation and all this kind of stuff. And for someone that was kind of bullied by a teacher at school for not being, I could have taken that and been like, oh, I'll just stop, because it was my first book. Like, and then I kind of showed it to, I showed the email to my wife, and she read, and I was really like, because it was a really personal attack, and I was just kind of like, I thought it was good, and then my wife was like, it is good, and she said like, you know, send it to some other trusted people, you know, and you know, Tony and Tome have read it, and other people, and they was like, don't see where this is coming from. So I was just like, okay, sod him, I'm just going to do it and just get it out there in the world, and I did it. And then I kind of went straight from Juniper and took what I learned from all that process. And you know, people are going to say whatever they want to say, and you know, a lot of people have said he's probably very jealous because, you know, the book is probably something that he's been wanting to write for a long time, because the guy has written books, but they've never been kind of popular or sold particularly well. And they're like, you know, you did it out the gate, you know, first book, you've done bosh. And then I went straight into that and wrote, you know, Tome, and that got nominated for a Bram Stoker Award that's above my desk. And I look at it and I'm just like, yeah, 2-page email. But yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, I kind of like, sometimes I will listen to like talks, and you know, Megan Lucas, who wrote Songbirds and Stray Dogs, she did like an online class. Kind of, it was like some literary thing that was where she lives, and I kind of went on that, and it was all about character development and all that kind of stuff. So I'll kind of do those things, but I won't kind of, yeah, I'm not one for signing up for a 12-week course on how to write a story or whatever. I'll just write the story and then deal with it afterwards. That's what editors are for.
It's funny hearing your answer. It made me think of musicians who don't read like sheet music, but they know how to play. So they can play and they know what sounds right by their ears, but they can't write or read music. So it's kind of reminded me, as you were talking, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
someone like Kurt Cobain couldn't write music, but he knew how to play. He knew what sounded good. So
yeah, so it's kind of like me. I'm a Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. And something I've been curious about, and I hear Bram Stoker nominated. What is that process? Are you nominated for? So, is that a committee that chooses who is in the list, or how does that work?
Excuse me. So, the Horror Writers Association, they kind of run the Bram Stoker Awards, and as far as I'm aware, I don't know that much at all, really, but. So from like now, from January until kind of like December time, members of the Horror Writer Association. So you have to be a member, and it's kind of, you know, like your peers. So horror writers or reviewers and people like that have kind of hit this threshold that allows them to kind of become a member, will then nominate books that go onto a recommended reading list. And kind of the list gets bigger as the year goes on, and then it kind of like cuts off at, I think it's December or January. Like there's the cut-off date for books that are published that period. And then there are juries that will read kind of like the novel selections or the short story selections or the anthologies and, debut novels and all that kind of stuff. And then that, from the amount of votes that have happened on the kind of reading list. So, say Tony's book is nominated for the recommended reading list. If a couple of people nominate that book, it'll stand it in better stead to move on to the next phase if, the jurors and all that come together and all the votes and all. And then it's like a kind of almost like a knockout, not competition, but so they'll come up with a list that might have, I don't know, 20 books in each category, if there were that many. And then the rest are kind of, okay, they were in there, but now they've fallen off, and then it'll kind of gradually progress. And then it'll be like, okay, so these are the books now that are on the recommended reading list, and there'll be like 10 for each category. And then the kind of Horror Writers Association and voting members can see those books, go away and try and read them or get them. And then there's the voting session that happens next. And then you get to vote on certain books in each category to move through to the next round. And then it keeps going down to the final 5, I think it was. So Tome made it to the final 5 for debut book. And that's pretty mental. And I still have to pinch myself about it, because that was, in horror, and this is probably one of the biggest awards in horror you can get, if not the biggest. And it was kind of, 5th best debut horror book in the world, which is pretty mental. And I'm just thinking about it again now, like that is mad. From this little guy who lives in Bristol and only started writing during the pandemic. It's mental. But I wouldn't change it for the world. But it is, it's an amazing honor to just be nominated, and that can stay with you forever. So if you don't win one, you can always just be a nominated Bram Stoker author. I would have loved to have won, but I didn't. But I'm very, very happy with a nomination, and here's to some more, hopefully. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Top 5 is really good. I mean, to go through that whole process, and it's your peers. It's not a committee, or it must be more because it's from your peers.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I also, like, it's quite strange because I rarely know anybody. So people would have had to have gone out of their way to read my book. It's not like I've been published for years and have this big fan base, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy. He's done this and he's done that." Which is quite. It's just very humbling indeed. Like, So I can't really, it's mental, and I get all gushy when I talk about it. So sorry.
It's good. It's good. It's something to be really proud of. And we are in October, so it is that time of year that people are watching scary movies and reading horror books and things like that. So what are some of your favorite horror movies?
Favorite horror movies? I don't know if you can classify it as a horror movie, but Requiem for a Dream, the book by Hubert Selby Jr., I would say is a horror, because it is pretty graphic. And the film is absolutely brilliant. I would say, and again, this is like what people do to one another, but The Devil All the Time, I really enjoyed that film, the adaptation from Donald Ray Pollock's book. Midnight Mass, I like that. And then we're looking like proper, like what I grew up with. So we're talking like The Thing. Like, that is just genius. Jaws, love Jaws. People might not think it's a horror film. It is, but it's more of a buddy film, but I love it. then you got, I don't know, yeah, Aliens, Alien, Predator. I'm not a big vampire person, Brad. If you're still watching, I apologize. But I did like Let the Right One In, like the proper. Is it Scandinavian? I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also like, is it Cronus as well? Cronus? Oh, I can't remember now. What's his name?
Oh, Cronenberg.
No, it was a film by Guillermo del Toro. Kronos, I think it was called. I can't remember. Hang on.
Was it? Did he do Pan's Labyrinth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guillermo del Toro. Here we go. Someone will probably write it in the chat before I find it. Where's it gone?
Was it Shape of Water?
No, that was rubbish.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really like it. I didn't like that one. I can't find it anyway. I thought it was him, but it's not on his IMDb, so I don't know what it's called. And yeah, I kind of just love like slasher films. Like I enjoy them. I'm more of a Michael Myers person than the kind of like, you know, Freddy, Jason, all that. I'm not too keen on the new ones. Like I think they've been a bit rubbish. But I loved all the kind of, you know, 1, 2, 4, 5, all that lot, 6. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What about you? What are some of your favorites?
Well, it's funny you mentioned it because I was trying to make a list of my favorite horror movies for October, and my list was more like the slower burn type of movies. There's a movie called I just was looking at it on Netflix. It's called if I can find it. It Comes at Night. It was kind of it was more of a build up. There wasn't much of a, you know, there's not a monster really. It's a lot of build up on what people do to each other when they're in these really horrible situations. So those are the kind of movies that I enjoy, is those slower burns. Or Martyr, the French version of Martyrs is on my list.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah. What was the other? Like I used to really love like the Japanese kind of horror. So like Audition, I loved. The original Ring, and then I also loved what was it called? Dark Water, but the kind of Japanese version, not the. I can't remember who was in it now. The American one they did that was rubbish. And then what else is it? Yeah, like I love, as I said like before, like religious horror is what I love, and I loved The Exorcist. You know, it's not aged very well. It, you know, and I read the book recently as well, and that was the first time for me. And there are so many bits in the book that got missed out of the film that would have just chilled your bones. And they didn't really use the detective in it. I think it's called Kinderman or something like that in the book. He was kind of just given a couple of lines in the film, but yeah, love that. And I think it's Exorcist 3. There is an amazing jump scare in that gets me every time I watch it. And I know it's coming, but gets me every time. The Amityville Horror, I used to like that one. That was good. And the Ryan Reynolds one, I like that one as well. But I also loved like some of the old stuff, you know, like Frankenstein and James Whale's Frankenstein and kind of Psycho. Like I studied film, and like, you know, Psycho blew my mind when I watched it. Yeah, and then you've got what's it called? Night of the Hunter. That was brilliant. Yeah, I just love it. I love it all. I just wish I could watch it all and it could all keep being like that. Cape Fear as well. Like, again, that's not like monsters, but what people can do, and that's my kind of bag, really. And I also loved talking about Psycho, the Bates Motel TV show. I don't know if you've seen it, but
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I love that as well. And again, it's just that kind of people. And then you got American Psycho, like again, people just doing despicable things. But yeah, I love it. And reading wise, I'm currently reading Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, which I'm also reading. I'm reading it's called Different Seasons is what I'm reading, but I had that as a singular book. So I was going to read that first, and then I've kind of normally I have a plan. Steve, I normally have a plan, and I haven't got a plan this month because I'm writing. I tend not to read anything that is in my wheelhouse when I'm in the process of writing, because I'm kind of like, I don't want to be influenced by particular things. You know, it could take my story in a different direction, or I could start writing stuff that I've just read, and I don't want that. Obviously, plagiarism, whatever. Not whatever, because it's quite serious, but I don't want to kind of like be influenced by something I'm reading. So I'm reading, Different Seasons, because I think the stories are quite different from what I'm currently writing. And then I'm thinking of I'm going to reread Knock 'em Stiff by Donald Ray Pollock, and I might read Edward Lorne, The Sound of Broken Ribs. And I might also read Bram Stoker's Dracula, because I haven't read it yet. Brad, you'd be happy. I'm reading a vampire book. But I also got sent a beautiful copy from Folio Society. So they're like, I'll show you. Hang on. It's like a little lovely slipcase.
Oh, wow. Look at that. That's a nice hardcover.
Yeah, I'm not really allowed to show anyone. Another exclusive. Where's it gone? I did also just finish, which kind of dragged into October, so I'd say it's a October read. Josh Malerman's Ghoul and the Cape, which is a 700-page beast, but absolutely amazing. Like, it traverses genre at ease, and it's 700 pages. And I thought, like, big books daunt me slightly, because I'm like, is it going to keep going all the way through, or is it going to have like boring bits? Absolutely enthralled all the way through. It's, it's horror, it's road trip, it's romance, it's kind of everything you want is in this book. And it's, I would say it's like his version of The Stand, if you know what I mean. Like, it's epic, it's kind of operatic, it's very, very cool. And he's a good guy, so check that out if it comes out.
Adding a bunch of books to my list. We are reading Dracula this month and having a meetup on it. I'm not sure. I'll have to check the time, but of course you're invited. It's going to be on the 30th of October. So if you manage to finish it.
If I get to it, I will give you a shout.
Nice. And David Butcher had a question. You don't read fantasy novels. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
Not a single episode. Well, I tell a lie. I watched one episode, and me and my wife sat down to watch it. And this was kind of years after it had come out. And we were bored. We'd watched everything, Breaking Bad, all that. And like catching up on stuff that we'd never seen and people had gone crazy about. Because it's a little bit like books for me. Like, if there's a lot of hype around a book, I tend not to read it straight away, because I'm like, it's not going to live up to the hype. So I'll buy it, and I'll leave it on the side, and then I'll get to it when I get to it, because a lot of people hype stuff up so much that you get it and you're like, oh, this is the best Stephen King book that's been out ever. And then you get it and you read it and you're like, oh, you still can't do the ending, right? But like, that's the kind of stuff. But, I also, saying that, I loved Billy Summers, and a lot of people didn't like that. But yeah, so I kind of like, I don't watch stuff when it's out. The only thing, Midnight Mass is probably the only thing I've watched, but I'll watch that by myself because my wife wouldn't like watching it, because she doesn't really do the horror stuff. And so I watched that like first off, and I was like, okay, that's quite cool. But yeah, Game of Thrones, we sat down to watch one episode and we put it on, and both of us were just like, what is this? Like, they're brother and sister, and they're having sex and we're seeing it all. Like, what is this crazy stuff? Oh, they just pushed a boy out a window. He just died. And all that kind of, I'm pretty sure those spoilers are all right now because everyone's seen it.
The first episode.
Yeah. I'm probably the only one that's never seen like any other episode, but yeah, it just wasn't for me. And you know, it was quite a long series, and there's a lot to watch, and I ain't got time.
There's a lot out there. You said you watched Breaking Bad? Did you watch Better Call Saul?
No, I think again we started watching that, and then I was just like, is it gonna? And then we kind of watched something else. I can't remember, but I did watch. What was the? They did a return to it, but with
El Camino.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. That was a nice honouring of what the show was and stuff. But yeah, again, like I loved Breaking Bad. I hadn't watched it, and then I broke my spine collapsed in my neck about 7 years ago, so I had to have like all rods put in it and stuff, and I was in one of those kind of neck braces for absolutely ages.
Oh no!
And because I couldn't work, I just sat at home and I just binge watched the whole of Breaking Bad in probably about 4 days. And it was just on constantly. I was just like, yeah, next. And it just reminds me of that time of just sitting there and just enjoying it. But I loved it. I thought it was amazing writing, and how they kind of developed the characters as it went on, and how kind of Walter turned into this like beast of a man. Was absolutely genius. And there's that bit with what's Jesse, is that his name, the younger guy?
Yeah.
The thing that happens with his girlfriend, like, and Walt is there. I'm just like, oh my goodness! I shed a tear in that episode. So good.
Yeah, that writer's room must be a lot of fun to be in. And it's the same writers for Better Call Saul, but it is more character driven. Better Call Saul is, but it's so good.
I might give it a go because we're still trying to decide what to watch next. So
yeah,
we might go back to that.
Excellent acting in that too. About Martyrs, I love movies that have an ending that keeps you guessing about things the movie only hints at. Ever since I saw The Time Machine, which 3 books did the time traveler take with him?
What, in The Time Machine?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bible. I have no idea.
I don't think it's in The Time Machine, but at the end of Martyrs, it does keep you guessing about what the hell just happened.
Yeah, okay. I don't know either of these. I'm going to need to check out. Time Machine, that's H.G. Wells, isn't it? Like, yeah, I can't remember. I've even read the book. I don't know. The book and the film are probably completely different. But come back to us, Andreas, because I want to know what 3 books they are. So
yeah, so if you have a guess. But yeah, the end of Martyrs is it's pretty intense. It's,
The Entity.
It's fun to watch.
The Entity. Yeah. What a film! That film. Have you seen that film?
I haven't.
Oh, it's good. It deals with bit of rape by a ghost, but it's the kind of in-screen special effects are mind-blowingly good. Like, brilliant.
And David Butcher says Cape Fear was bloody chilling.
Yeah, I've also forgot Poltergeist. That was a good one.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. I did see have you seen The Dark and the Wicked?
No.
It's about a year or 2 old. It was pretty good. And Possessor is also pretty good. And Sap says, my Halloween watch is celebrity ghost stories. Northwest Reader, Breaking Bad was so intense.
Yeah.
And David says, Jesse became the star. What an actor. Yeah, he did great. It's just all around. Everyone did really great in that series. With that writing, it's... I'm glad they had people capable of pulling it off because you don't want that to be.
Yeah, I think everybody they brought into it was great. Even I can't remember their names now, but his brother-in-law, the police officer, and his wife, and kind of all the different gangs that came into it, and all the people, and every single person that came into the show. Like sometimes you watch a show and you're like, that person can't act. How did they get that role? But like Breaking Bad, everybody was good. Excuse me.
And if you've, I'm not sure if you've looked into the clothing they'd used as the series went on. They started with lighter clothing, and then as the characters progressed, their clothing changed colors. It's pretty interesting. There's a few videos on YouTube about it. I never noticed it until I saw that. So, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. A lot of thought put into it that I didn't realize.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Alien and Aliens.
Yeah.
Are you caught up on this on the series with Covenant?
Tony, bless him, absolutely loves the series. So I've enjoyed the last few films, absolutely rubbing it in his face that they're not any good. But he's been telling me about this series, and because I like the series. I like 1, 2, and 3. And a lot of people don't like 3. It's directed by David Fincher, who, in my opinion, is just one of the best directors out there. Story's a bit sus, but there was a lot of issues going on when the making of that. And Tony's been telling me kind of about the series and how it's going to go forward. And I don't know, sometimes you just need to let a beaten dog die. And the way, I can't even remember Alien Resurrection or whatever and all that kind of stuff, Covenant, and I don't know. It just seems that I watch an alien film because I want to see an alien. I don't want all this kind of experimented on alien that turns into this hybrid dog type creature. I just want give me an alien with the mouth thing and acid for blood and Marines trying to fight it, and I'll be there. And face huggers, they're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. I will watch it, but I don't know. Sorry, intrusive thought. Have you seen the Apple TV series SEA?
SEA?
SEE.
No, I haven't.
Oh, it is, in my opinion, it is the best thing on television at the moment. Is it Jason Momoa? It is the best thing I've seen in absolutely ages. World building, story, premise, acting, special effects, fight scenes, all that kind of stuff. If you haven't watched it, people, you need to. And it's about kind of this future. I don't know how many years down the line, but basically people have lost the ability to see, everybody. And it's kind of how they kind of come back from that. And, a child is born. It's not a spoiler, it's in the trailer and everything. But a child is born into this world of blindness that can see, or 2 children are. And then it's kind of the quest on how to protect them and all that. It's kind of it's got the epic scope of kind of Lord of the Rings, and with its kind of grandeur of scenery and all that kind of stuff. And it reminded me of kind of the films like Willow and kind of all of those kind of old classics. But it's, the core of it is the story, and the story is just mesmerizing. You need to check that one out. There's 2 series out at the moment, I think. First series was brilliant. Second series is equally as good, and it's got Dave Bautista is in it as well now. And it's kind of currently that second series is being released as every week as a new episode, but it's almost done now. But yeah, highly recommended. That's very, very good.
It looks very fantasy though. I'm surprised.
Yeah, well, it's not got any dragons in it, and it's not got any kind of wizards and shields, and and the kind of fight scenes and the violence is some of it is nothing I've ever seen before. It is that crazy good. But again, you've got that violence, but then you've got the story behind it, and that kind of grounds it in the kind of, okay, that is brutal, but I know why he did that. And it does look fantasy, but believe me, it's not.
Have you tried reading? Well, first let me read David's comment. He says the entity is based on a true story. Apparently, yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
And Skylar, I forget her name in Breaking Bad, but she was also very good.
Oh yeah.
I think she won some awards, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But have you tried reading Grimdark? It's like kind of like a mix between horror and fantasy.
No, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of a subgenre, but there's some books that you may enjoy if you like the. I'm trying to think of something to recommend to you, just to at least look into. There's a book called Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher that is very dark and just off the walls crazy. So if you want to,
does it have wizards in it?
No wizards. The story is that in this world, insane people, their delusions become reality. So they almost become like gods. But they can only become so powerful until if they become reach a certain level of power, then they kind of collapse on themselves, kind of like a star that collapses on itself. So there's limits. Beyond Redemption.
Beyond Redemption.
Yeah,
that sounds quite nice.
It is very dark. It is bleak and dark, and none of the characters, as the title suggests, they're all irredeemable and terrible people. But yeah, it's a great book. So if you're looking for something fantasy,
yeah, well, as I said, I'm always open to reading, and if it's not straight fantasy, so orcs and goblins and wizards and songs and merriment, I'm sure it'll be fun. I'll give it a look.
No wizards. A lot of crazy stuff goes down though. It's wild.
Okay, it sounds good to me.
Yeah, let me know if you check it out. I mean,
I will.
Yeah, really good stuff. Cool. Well, I want to thank you again for coming by. It's been a blast, and just time flies. We just start talking about stuff.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me on. And if I do get to Dracula, I'll give you a nod and then see what happens from there.
Yeah, let me know. I think let me check really quick what day that is. But I think it's on the 30th. Let me just check the time. We have a calendar that we keep all of our shenanigans on. Let me just check really fast. It's at 12. It's 12 my. So it's at the same time we met up today.
Oh, okay.
Your time. I forget what your time. I think it's 7 your time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the same time that we're on October 30th. So if you happen to read it, let us know.
Okay, perfect. I will do. Michael R. Fletcher. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading the comments down there.
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Michael R. Fletcher. It was the first one I thought of too. Yeah, it is very. There's fantasy with a twist. So there's no dragons and elves and that kind of thing. It's not traditional fantasy at all. It's off the wall crazy. The magic system is just. I wish I was this creative. Just there's this whole system that's built around these people and their delusions, and there's these different classes of people, and they speak German because it's crazy. So,
well, okay,
it's just off the wall crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up. I will keep you posted.
Yeah, let me know. I think it might even be on Kindle Unlimited.
Okay, I'll give that a look.
So if you have that, yeah, it is on Kindle. Is it? No, it's not on Kindle Unlimited, but it is on Amazon. So
you build me up and then you knock me down.
I know. Sorry. I thought it was, but it's worth it. It's a great book.
Excuse me.
But yeah, I'm gonna check. I'll check out C. I think that sounds really good.
Yeah, and kind of, it's just epic in scope, and it has got like these weird, kind of weird vibes of like Willow and what's that? What was that film with Tim Murray who played the devil in it with the unicorn?
Oh, Legend.
It's got kind of like
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it's got those kind of vibes to it, and like the old school Beastmaster. I don't know if you've seen that. I used to watch it all the time as a kid.
I think I did way
it
back.
Was horrific, and I don't know how my parents let me watch it, but yeah. But it's got that kind of old school like quest feel to it. That is just like, yeah, I thought it was amazing. I think it's amazing. Like I'm halfway through the second series, and it's still for me is the best thing I've seen in ages. But it's not horror. Like it's just straightforward, character-driven adventure, questy type thing. And yeah, like the cinematography is beautiful. And I know you said we're going to wrap out, but Handmaid's Tale as well. Okay. I love the book and the series. I thought was really, really well done as well, cinematography wise. Like I think that is one of the most beautiful TV shows I've ever watched. Just in how it's all kind of filmed and framed, and like the scenes with their kind of white hats and red dresses and how that's all done, I thought was phenomenal. I've got to read the sequel because I've got it, but there was a bit too much hype with that one, so I just left it on the side. But I have got it.
Are you caught up on The Handmaid's Tale, the TV show?
I'm on the kind of third season. I've got a bit more to watch, but I've seen some, like probably like 5 of the third season. Again, it's one of those that because it got a bit depressing at one point, so I was kind of like watching it and I was just like, oh dear. So I put it aside for a bit, and then I haven't gone back to it yet, but I will do. But yeah, it got a bit of a kind of, I was like, oh okay, because it's not it like the book is completely different. Like the book is almost like some of the first series, and then it's kind of over and done with, and then so all this kind of additional stuff is just it's gone in a avenue I didn't expect, but I will get back to it.
I really enjoyed the first couple seasons, and then it kind of lost its way a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm finding that in the third series, it's kind of they got to a point where it could have been quite a nice, like, oh yeah, that's the limited 2 series bosh. Yeah. But then they kind of like, let's do another one, and it's kind of like we don't know really where we're going.
It's kind of feels like Lost, when Lost kept going and going and going.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. David says, did you know that James Cameron didn't think the dock loader scene was going to be well received? He was going to cut it. Test showing audiences loved it.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best bits.
Oh yeah, with the Ripley and the dock, the dock loader,
and that yellow kind of machine thing. And one of the most iconic lines is in that bit as well.
Yeah, and the only thing I didn't like about that is that it's the same way they got rid of the alien in the first one. They did it again in the second one.
Yeah, through the kind of airlock type thing.
Yeah, kind of a little too easy. Brian's here.
Probably spoiled that for anyone who hasn't seen Alien or Aliens.
It's a 30-year-old movie. So
hello, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
We've been talking about you all day long.
Yeah. He says, I'm at work right now, so I'll have to catch this later. But I wanted to let Andres know that the movie adaptation of Ketchum's The Girl Next Door is pretty damned good.
Okay. I might have to watch that. Spooky season. Watch it.
Yeah, I'm about to look that up here too. Because I was thinking the mid or the early 2000s movie that I forget the name of the movie or the name of the actress that was in it.
I know who you mean. And I know what film you mean as well. I can't remember.
There are 2 Girl Next Door movies. I had my mind on the other one.
Yeah, I think they're probably very different.
Yeah, they are probably very different. But this one's in 2007, and it is not the other movie I was thinking of. So yeah, I think that was a true story, right?
Yeah, it was a true story.
Oh, that's terrible.
I think as well, like the excuse me, like I was saying, like there are a lot of people that didn't finish the book, and most of those that I've kind of seen, not most of them, like quite a few, have all been. I didn't realize this book was about this particular true life incident, and as soon as I found out it was, I stopped reading it because I don't want to glorify, buying this book is that glorifying me, like, taking my money and giving it to but like it, Ketchum doesn't say that in the book. It doesn't say like details have changed and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of the kind of seed of the story is from the kind of real life stuff that happened. But yeah, I'm probably going to watch that film because I haven't seen it, and I'd like to see if the adaptation is as good as the book.
Yeah, like that's that's heavy. It looks like another heavy. Heavy. Just looking on the IMDb page, it looks like a heavy one.
I have a question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
What would you say are a couple of the best film book to film adaptations that you have seen?
Oh wow, come with the hard hitting questions, huh?
Yeah.
For me, I think it might be an easy answer, but I think the one of the best adaptations, and it's not. I don't ever think a movie is as good as the book. It just you can't, because what you have in your mind reading a book is never going to be as good as someone else when they make a movie. You know, they can create a movie, and there's always going to be things that are missing, and there's certain. It's the format of storytelling, but I would say probably Jurassic Park. I think that's probably an easy answer, but
that's pretty good.
That movie still holds up now.
Yeah. I tried watching it a couple of weeks ago with my youngest, and I forgot how boring the opening bit is. Like before there's any dinosaurs, I forgot how boring, and we got like not boring to me, but just getting to the island and all that kind of stuff. And I think 20 minutes in, she had already had enough. I was just like, no, just wait until we see the dinosaurs.
The dinosaurs are coming, I promise.
Yeah.
But Andres says, yes, it is. Hi, Brian, but I haven't read the book yet, so I'm curious. Oh, okay.
Okay.
And Seth says, does Halloween and nostalgia go hand in hand for y'all? It's a good question.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think being in the UK, like I say we, like me and my parents never used to celebrate Halloween at all. Like it wasn't a thing that we used to do. And I remember times where my parents would turn the lights off in the lounge, and then we would go into the back room, so no one would know we were at home, so we didn't get any trick or treaters knocking on the door. Which sounds mental. Like I'm assuming all you American guys are just like, what? But it also wasn't a thing. Like we never went out trick or treating. And I think over the years it has gradually kind of caught up to American standards of kids meet up, get all dressed up, and go out and do all that kind of stuff. And for one, I think it's quite cool. I would kind of love to do some of that kind of creepy stuff. But yeah, it's just different in the UK. But and I've got kids of my own now. We don't go out trick or treating. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. And some of that is kind of religious kind of stuff, and we don't believe in kind of that kind of stuff, so we don't do it. I write stuff like that, but we don't kind of celebrate that as a thing. But October comes around, Halloween comes around, and I'm like, oh, I could do with some creepy stuff. So like Midnight Mass was straight on there. October, I was just like, yeah, let's get this in. And yeah, it's odd. I don't do some stuff, like I don't celebrate Halloween, but I write about crazy horror stuff. And yeah, I don't know, it's strange. Like when I look at you guys in the States and see how crazy, like I saw Stephen Graham Jones, like he put a picture up, I don't know if it was last Halloween or this Halloween that's coming, but like he had like these 20-foot skeletons on his like front garden and all this other kind of, and like just to see it would be amazing, but like you guys like live it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it can be, well, it's gotten a lot quieter now with the pandemic because no one was out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think a lot of because I didn't watch horror movies when I was a kid because my parents were like, you can't watch that stuff, and that's so as I watched movies that everyone loved during that time, they kind of comes off as cheesy for me. So, and just says I've only read Ketchum's Red Yet, the one with the dog.
If you're a dog lover, that's a bad one.
Yeah. Reading and Whatnot is here. You don't believe in that kind of stuff, but yet you write it. Why?
Easy question, easy answer. I love to be scared. I don't know anybody that doesn't love to be scared. And, even as babies, we scare babies. We play peekaboo and we go boo. It is ingrained in us from the very beginning that being scared is sometimes fun and sometimes scary. And I don't believe in a lot of stuff, but I still write about it. I love the feeling of being scared. I love the kind of doing the creepy stuff, and I don't believe in kind of ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts at all. I believe in kind of like demons and things like that. But I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe that when you die, your ghost kind of walks around and stuff. I've never seen one. I don't, and I'm not saying that if you've seen one that you're wrong. I'm just saying I've never seen one. So to be perfectly honest, how many people lived on this planet and died and I've never seen one ghost? Like, come on, people. I used to live in London, like where they had the plague and the fire and the Great Fire of London, and that place must be covered in ghosts. Never seen one. But yeah, I just love to be scared. I love making people scared. I love the kind of feeling of it. I don't believe in that stuff, but I still write. I believe completely in the spiritual realm and kind of all that kind of hell and the devil and kind of evil spirits and possession and all that kind of stuff. I believe in all of that, but the Halloween thing that it is, I don't kind of buy into. But that's just me. But
yeah, I think
I'm not saying people are wrong who buy into it. It's just that it's completely different culture to what I grew up with. So,
yeah. I think that's probably the biggest thing is just a different culture. But and David is Ruben J. Okay, yeah, I keep looking. Yeah, so Ruben is an author. I'm going to be chatting with him here in a few weeks. So, and there says I heard good things about John Huber's books that are leaning towards violent and brutal. Catch a Mask. We'll see.
Catch a Mask.
John Huber. I'll have to look that up. Saf says the Home Depot skeleton.
If you haven't seen Stephen Graham Jones' skeleton, like try and find it on his Twitter feed or whatever. It is absolutely massive.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
And we do scare babies.
Yeah. We scare them and they scare us quite a bit as well as a parent.
They are scary. You may have seen one, you just don't know it.
Possibly. We may have entertained angels and not known it. Who knows?
And I'm guessing you've seen the Exorcism of Emily Rose. You've seen that one?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched kind of like all of those that kind of came out of that. Around that time, there's quite a few possession things that came out. I even watched what was it? The Exorcist TV show. I watched the first series of it, and it started really well, and kind of how it went was pretty cool. And then it kind of finished, and I thought, but apparently they released a second series. I've never seen it, but apparently it came out. But I thought the kind of initial TV show of it was pretty cool. There was another one that I really loved, possession one.
A series or a movie?
It was a movie. It's going to really annoy me because I loved it.
Is it recent or was it a while back?
Yeah, it's probably it was 2000 maybe, something like that. What's it called? I can't even think of it. It was so good. Something about voices or hang on, let me look it up.
Let me see if I can search for possession movies and see if I can find it. Do you remember who was in it?
I don't have a clue. It was someone that was unknown, I think, or to me they were unknown. But Fallen with Denzel Washington was very good. What was it? That was it. Deliver Us from Evil.
Okay.
Yeah, that was very good. Like I enjoyed that one. Eric Bana. That's it. He's in it.
Hmm.
That was a very good one. I'm just looking at these. I've seen all of these. But yeah, Exorcist 3 was good as well. And they did a film, Exorcist: The Beginning, as well, which was kind of like trying to hopefully get the series, get the films going again. But that was quite good. That was kind of looking at, like it was like a prequel type thing about where the kind of evil came from that did the stuff to Reagan. But again, like we were saying before, like films and stuff now that like they're remaking The Exorcist, aren't they? Like that's coming out soon, I think.
Oh, they're remaking it?
Yeah, another film. But I don't even know if it's going to be like, yeah, 2023 is coming out.
Oh wow, I didn't know about that.
It says a sequel to the 1973 film about a 12-year-old girl who's possessed by a mysterious demonic entity. But it pretty much looks the same kind of, well, from what I can see, it looks the same. But I'm just like, come on, there's so many good books out there that just, or indie books, or just books that you could turn into films instead of remaking stuff. Like it jars me quite a lot.
I think a lot of the like production companies and stuff they're afraid to take risks now especially with the pandemic. They're trying to do the easy money grabs because it's no one's going. Well, people are starting to go to the theater a little bit more, but I'm not sure about in the UK. But
yeah, well, I actually went to the cinema a week ago for the first time in, well, since I don't know, 18 months or something like that. We went and watched Bond because we have a thing that we've watched all the new Bond films, like me and my wife together in the cinema. And yeah, I quite liked the new Bond, but I can see why a lot of people don't. I'll just leave it like that.
and Saf says,
just touching on this comment here, like,
every time people have seen angels in the Bible, they're afraid.
Yes, and they always say, the angels always say either "do not be afraid," or they saw the angel and they were afraid. And again, and I'm not saying anything that is spoilery, but Midnight Mass, anyone? Just saying, just putting it out there. No Country for Old Men was pretty good. Yeah, that was a pretty good adaptation.
Yeah, it was Brian's favorite movie adaptation. That's a good answer for that one.
Yeah.
And Ariel is asking, reading whatnot, do you have a favorite horror novel?
It's very difficult. I will give you a few because it always changes. The Shining by Stephen King. The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. That one is one that made me shiver a few times because it was pretty creepy. I absolutely loved. There are 3 books, but I classify them as one, which is The Patience of a Dead Man series by Michael Clarke. That one really. Another trope I love is kind of like haunted houses and stuff like that. I don't believe in ghosts, but I love it. That one had the chills for me, and especially the second book really kind of. Oh, the second book was just yeah. Trying to think. I really loved. Just have a look now. I really like Doctor Sleep as well, and I don't know whether I've got this kind of obsession about that book because I read The Shining and then I went straight in and read Doctor Sleep afterwards, and they married together so well that I was just like, oh yeah, that is, because all the references were fresh in my mind from The Shining. and it was a massive explosion of King goodness. I loved it. And then after that, I then watched Doctor Sleep, the film, like just back to back King all the way through. And I was just like, this film is one of the best films I've seen. Like it was so, I really enjoyed the film. And, you know, I'm probably, I don't know, I probably had a massive King on for it at the time. And I was just like, this is like brilliant. But yeah, but also like the books that I kind of what was the other? Sorry, I can't really see my books over. I loved Cormac McCarthy's
The Road, or
no, that was brilliant as well. Hang on. Child of God by Cormac McCarthy. That was pretty disturbing. And there's so many, like even newer ones that are kind of, for me, are up there now is stuff like Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. That one gutted me as a father. I was just like, oh. Josh Malerman, like I only really discovered Josh Malerman kind of like last 2 years. Like I had seen Bird Box out for absolutely, the film. I'd seen that out for absolutely ages. Had no idea it was a book. And then kind of it was on Netflix, and it just kept on coming up. Like Netflix loved it, and it just kept on coming up. And I was just like, okay, I'll watch it. And as soon as I finished watching it, I was like, right, I'm buying that book. And then from then on, I read it, and then I've devoured kind of everything else that he's written. Like Chad Lutzke, like amazing writer. And I've learned, again, like we were saying, like, have you learned anything? Like, how do you teach yourself? And read Chad Lutzke, man. Like, the man is genius. And like, yeah, Stirring the Sheets was brilliant. Of Flies, and I can't remember. I forgot it. I'm a bit like, I've had a lot of paracetamol today for my cold. There we go. I'll just bring the books over. It's easier. Out Behind the Barn. John Bowden, Chad Lutzke. That one made me cry. That's it. Of Foster Homes and Flies. You know, I was almost there. Brilliant idea for a story. You'd never think about it, and he just wrote it within an inch of its life. It's so good. And yeah, there's just so many. Like Alan Baxter and The Gulp. That short story collection, absolutely loved it. Tracy Fahey, what did she do? The Unheimlich Maneuver, and I Spit Myself Out. Like two amazing collections. And you got like Gemma Amor, who did kind of Dear Laura and Cruel Works of Nature and all these other kind of stuff. Like, and Steve Stredd, like, man, Steve Stredd writes so many books and they're all banging.
I'm gonna have a bunch of books and movies and TV shows to watch now.
Yeah, and then you've got like Mitch Seaborn. Like, I first discovered him on like Well Read Beard reviewed one of his books, and it was kind of like I think it's called Flying Saucers. I didn't read that one, but I reached out to him. I was like, "Oh, I said, I don't know if this is alien stuff or whatever, but I said, do you write any horror? And he was like, I've got a couple. And one of them was called Folklore, which was brilliant. And then he said, and then after I bought that one and read it, he'd just released another book called Dust and Time, which kind of links roughly into it. There's a cute, like, there's a little Easter egg stuff. But I read both of those, and they're brilliant as well. And you know, Daniel Barnett, like, started that series like recently, and I'm just like, well, this is crazy good, and he writes so well as well, and it's just but yes, sorry, it's a long-winded answer. I love all horror books mainly, but yeah, my favourites are I'd say The Shining, The Exorcist, and Patience of a Dead Man as a complete book.
That's high praise. Yeah, that's.
But yeah, I'd say they were and it's so difficult. Like, put me on the spot. Like, I don't want to leave anybody out, but like Bird Box as well. That one is right up there because it's like what we were talking about before, Steve. Like the stuff that you don't see, like the horror that is there, but it's left to the reader to discover. Like Bird Box was just genius. Like you never ever know what it is that they see or don't see in the book anyway. You never know what it is, and it's just an assault on the senses. And there is one bit in the book, and I interviewed Josh on my channel, and I was kind of talking to him about it, and me and Kev Harrison, amazing writer, and I was talking to him about kind of the horror that is in Bird Box, and it is a horror book. It is a slow burn. There are bits in it, but again, like the most, like I even sometimes like I wake up and think about this scene because have you read Bird Box, Steve?
No, I haven't.
There is a scene in it, and as we were saying, like what the monsters of men and what men do, and or men or women do, and there is a scene in it, and I'm going to say it happens in an attic, just so you know if you do read it. That's all I'm going to say. And it is some of the man, that man's twisted. But like when it happened, I was just like, oh my goodness, like that is, oh my goodness. But he barely used any words to get it across. But I saw it, I felt it, and I was just like, oh, that is good. So yeah, Bird Box is up there as well. But I'll stop now.
No, that's good. I have a bunch of tabs open here on my other screen to get. And the rest says Ghoster by Jason Arnott is probably a must read. I usually don't like exorcism stories.
Yeah, Jason Arnott also wrote keep getting me up, Steve. Keep getting me up.
The
Last Days of Jack Spark. That's what he wrote. The Last Days of Jack Spark is what Jason Arnott wrote, and that was very good as well.
Jeez. The mass market paperback of Bird Box is only $58 on Amazon.
How much?
$58.18.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. The hardcover is $40. So, yeah.
That is mental. That's really expensive.
$10. Well, it's not bad.
Wow. Yeah. Madness.
Reading and whatnot said if they remade The Shining and made it true to the book, I'd go see it.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of issues around that kind of adaptation to screen. With Kubrick not liking King and King not liking Kubrick, and they did a like a TV show, didn't they? TV series of it. I remember having it on DVD, which was a bit. TV? Yeah, it was. It wasn't very good. I can't remember if it's. I forgot her name. She was in.
Let's see, Rebecca De Mornay.
That's it. Yeah. Which had some bits that were missed out of the film, out of the book. Sorry, there's bits in it about the beehive and all that kind of stuff that he goes up and sorts on the roof, and but yeah, it was still quite a poor adaptation. It was a TV, like it didn't look good, but who knows? Like all they're remaking Firestarter. We might get a remake of The Shining. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah, why not, right? This is the Ghoster, the one with the Last Days of Jack Sparks, of course. Slapset, yeah. Saul meets a ghost in the Old Testament via a medium.
Yeah. Good for Saul.
Ariel says, I love haunted houses. Seth says, I really enjoyed The House on the Bottom of the Lake by Mallerman.
Mm.
Good dread in that. I haven't read that one.
Yeah, that's a really short novella. It's very good.
You guys are killing me with all these books and stuff to read.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. Read books.
At the Bottom of the Lake.
It's not like it's crack.
Yeah. It could be worse, yeah.
It could be worse.
Thankfully, that paperback is only $15, so we're making progress.
There we go.
Yeah, not too bad. And David Butcher says, I found The Road to be disturbing. Yeah, that movie was... I haven't read the book, but the movie was...
I haven't seen the film, but the book is... there's a couple of scenes. There is a scene like that involves... I'm going to just say a little bit. It's not a spoiler. There's a scene... And have you seen the film, Steve? Yeah?
I have, yeah.
So is there a bit about cannibalism in the film? Okay. We'll leave it there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Enough.
Yeah. I don't know for anybody, but yeah, it's pretty disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of stuff, but I enjoyed The Road. I thought it was a very good book. My wife read it. She was working at like a Waterstones in the UK when it came out, and so she got like a preview copy and all that. And she absolutely hated it. She just said that nothing happens. So it's just two people, nothing really happens, and then it's over. And I read it, and I was just like, "This is one of the best books I've read." It's like, come on. But yeah, it's interesting. It's whatever floats your boat on it, really.
It's not very long, is it? The book?
No, it's pretty short. Again, I got a lovely folio society of that as well.
Yeah, it's under 300 pages. Not too bad.
Also, Fahrenheit. What's it called? Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. You might class it as horror, you might not, but I class it as horror. Horror, touch of sci-fi. That was a really good book. Had a really good message as well.
I think I got that book recently. I lose track. I have a problem.
Yeah. So do I. These books behind me are just a small section. I have a whole room.
So are you a physical media type of person? Is that what you enjoy?
I've had to adapt because obviously with reviewing for Storgy, and like I was getting like 4 or 5 books a week, like would just turn up from varied publishers, like Bloomsbury, Penguin Random House, Titan, all of that. Like I would get books coming all the time, and initially I was like, yeah, 3 books, man. Like I never have to buy a book again. And then I realized I had to review them, or not. Like, if I didn't fancy read, like I can't remember who it is, but someone keeps on sending me fantasy books, and I'm just like, it says on my profile I don't read fantasy books, and you keep sending them to me, so I just keep passing them off to my dad who loves them. And but yeah, like it kills me when I have to do a book cull, because I've only got so much space, and and the thing about being a writer, and I guess it's probably for readers as well, but for a writer, if I'm reading a book and there is a particular line or a phrase that really speaks to me, even if the rest of the book is trash, I have to keep it because of that one passage. And it got to a head like a while back, and I was just like, I've got too many books, and I was double stacking books on bookshelves, and I was like, this floor is probably going to fall through to the next in a minute. So I had to get rid of I took them to like charity shop, like Goodwill. But I must have got rid of probably about 130 books.
Wow.
And it killed me to do it, but and I've kind of stripped it down to either like really, really like this shelf over here is kind of like Stephen King, Chuck Palahniuk, and then like kind of Josh Malerman and special books at the bottom, like, and they're like I'm kind of currently trying to get all hardback Stephen King's, which is quite annoying. And there's a little story behind this, is that my dad used to have every single Stephen King first edition hardback, and for some reason unbeknownst to anybody on the planet, when I was at university, decided that they didn't want to have a bookcase anymore. So instead of just getting rid of the bookcase, they got rid of he took all of his Stephen King first editions that were in immaculate condition and gave them to Goodwill, every single one. And I came back and I was like, "Where have all your books gone?" Like, and he was like, "Oh, I just gave them to charity shop." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, they should have come to me. Like, they were all like every single book. I'm being serious, Steve. Like, every single Stephen King book that came out was first edition, mint condition, on the shelf. And that it wasn't just that. It was like, The Exorcist, first edition, mint cover. All of James Herbert's books, mint condition. Really? Oh, I'm gonna swing for him. But yeah, so currently now I'm rebuying. I have all of his books. But so I have them all in paperback, various, like, picked up from charity shop or whatever. But now I'm kind of trying to get all of the hardback editions because I quite like them, and then I just read the paperback and keep the hardback on the shelf. But yeah, it's an obsession. Like, it's just too much. Like, I can't. If I read a book, and it really pains me as well, because now being a writer, which sounds really weird saying, but like, people send me signed copies of books now that I'll read, and it pains me that I can't keep them all. And I'm sorry, I'm going to admit this to you,
Okay.
but if someone has sent me a signed copy of their book and I've had to get rid of it because I don't have physically enough space, and I have read it and I've reviewed it and I've done all that, what I do is that I just scalpel out the page that is signed and I keep it, and then I send it to Goodwill, just so I have a record that I've read that book and I've had it and I've got a signature and it's, or autograph, and it's all in there. Don't hate me. I haven't destroyed the book. I've just neatly, you'd never know if you picked it up in the shop, and I check them as well to make sure that no one would know that page is missing, and I'm just done.
So how many times have you done this?
What, cutting out the page?
Yeah.
Probably around about 40 times.
Wow.
But it's really difficult. Like, I've got so many. We rent a property, so I don't own this house, so I can't make like a library. And it's not only me. Like, I'm a lover of books, but my wife is also a lover of books, and we've just got too many. And this room is where my stuff is, and I try to keep it as kind of. I'm sounding like a nutter now, aren't I? So I got all these, like, fanning through like these front pages of books. But yeah, like, I try my best to keep as many as I can, but sometimes I've just got to get rid of a book. And I haven't done a big cull since that last one for Out of City Ages. And it was books that I have read and I didn't enjoy it, or they were sent to me for review and I never got around to them, and I just send them off. But and hopefully they've gone to someone that will enjoy them. It's not like I threw them in the bin or set fire to them.
It's true. And you don't tell the authors you do this, right? The authors who you've done this with. Yeah, I can't do that.
Of course not.
So how many signed copies do you have on your shelves that you haven't given away?
I haven't chopped off. Also, those signed copies might just be like, anyway, I won't get into it. I've got a fair few. Some of them come to me. Obviously, I get sent them quite a lot from indie authors and stuff like that. I've got a few book plates from people. Again, through the work of Storgy, I've got to know some pretty cool writers. So like Donald Ray Pollock, we send each other emails from time to time and have a chat. And like he sent me like quite a few. I said, any way to get some signed copies because I can't find any of your books anywhere that are signed. And he said, if you send me some like stickers or whatever, I'll sign them all and send them back to you. So I kind of got like a backlog of stickers now. So every time he releases one, I've got a sticker ready just to be like, yeah, signed copy. But I pretty much most of my Chuck Palahniuk collection is all signed.
Oh wow!
And this is one of my favorites. I'll show you. It was a limited edition of Fight Club.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's all gold inlaid and gold pages. And I interviewed him for Storgy, and then he kind of like sent a autographed copy through.
Wow, that's really cool.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, most of my collection of his is signed. Not, I haven't gone in person. I've just bought signed copies, and most of them are hardback. But this is like the piece of resistance. It's very, very cool. I like the fact it looks like a Bible as well, or some type of religious book. It's quite cool.
That is really nice.
And I have one signed Stephen King book, which I found on eBay for like £20. That might not even be his, but who knows?
A shot. Yeah.
Got to be in it to win it, haven't you?
Can't win if you don't take a shot at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Andrew says, I started buying Stephen King's books in hardcover, the ones I missed. Then I got a bit distracted when someone pointed me to Joyce Carol Oates. She's even more prolific.
I've not read anything by Joyce Carol Oates.
I'm looking. Carol Oates.
I've also never read any. Is it Tabitha, his wife, Tabitha King?
Yeah, I haven't read
any of hers. I've read some Joe Hill. That was quite cool.
Yeah, I like Nosferatu. I thought it was good. Let's see. She's written Night, Sleep, Death, The Stars, Night, Leon, Tales of Mystery and Suspense. There's a lot of books here. What would you recommend starting with, if you don't mind? Recommend one of the books to us. And David said Bird Box is $3.19 at World Books in the UK.
Yeah, that's cheap as chips. That.
Yeah. The Oxford Book of American Short Stories. Yeah, I haven't heard of her. What Joe Hill book did you read?
I read Heart-Shaped Box. Is that what it's called? I've read Full Throttle, Strange Weather. I've read Horns. I haven't read Nosferatu, and I haven't read The Fireman.
Oh, okay.
Or Fireman, whatever you call it. But I'm thinking of reading Nosferatu at Christmas, because it's Christmas land, isn't it? So I was thinking of reading. I thought about reading it last year at Christmas, but it was COVID, and I was just like, let's just get through this rubbish. But yeah, I'm hoping to read it at Christmas, like over the Christmas period. That might be my book I put forward for that month, because I'll be writing still, and I don't really want to kind of add too much to the plate. Like that Ghoul in the Cape by Josh Malerman, like it came from Earthling Publications, and I think like the hardback, or they're doing like a limited run of them, and it's so expensive. And well, it's not expensive, it's just like getting it shipped here would be more than the cost of the actual book, which is pretty expensive. So they sent it to me, and I was just like, well, you've sent it all this way, and so I focused on that book for I thought that was going to be the only book I was going to read, but I read it so quickly. Like the 700 pages just went.
Wow.
And then, so now I'm kind of like just picking and choosing what I read. And then I quite like the fact that I can just pick and choose at the minute, because I said I'm not open for reviews. So it's quite nice to just, like, books I've had on my shelf for ages, like different seasons. I've had that for like years and I haven't even got to it. And it's got Shawshank Redemption, like Apt Pupil, The Body, and like all of these like classics, and I've never read it, and it's just sat there for ages because I've been reading like loads of other books. And don't get me wrong, like I love reading indie horror, other books that get sent to me for review. I love blurbing books, like, but it's so refreshing to just be like, oh, I don't have like I have to read that book. It's just like, oh, I'm going to read that today. It's quite nice. But yeah, so don't get it twisted. Like, I'm always a supporter of indie horror. I always will read and review any books that get sent me. But for the next few months, I'm just taking my time.
You know, I've noticed something recently, and on social media, I see people promoting they have a service that they provide blurbs. How does that work? How do blurb? Because I thought blurbs were just quotes from people who read the book, but how does that work? Do people pay for blurbs? I didn't know that was a thing.
If people are paying for blurbs, I wouldn't take those blurbs for the price of toffee, because you shouldn't be paid to provide a blurb. You know, that's mental. Normally, a blurb is that, for me, for my definition of a blurb, is that I approach a writer who is going to give me like a short, kind of like tagline almost, kind of review of my book that I can use in like promotion or publicity. Say on Juniper, like the top, that's what I would call a blurb. Like Ross Jefferies' Bertha Love Child of Stephen King and Cormac McCarthy. And like on Tome, Keenan Patrick Burke, Ross Jefferies' work evokes the insidious menace of past masters prepared to be scared. Like that's what I would call a blurb.
Yeah.
And yeah, like with Stains, like kind of in the internal, we didn't put any on the cover because I just liked the plainness of what it was. Yeah. But like all the, I don't think I have any in mine. Oh yeah, because the praise for bit. That's kind of all blurbs, but a blurb is from a writer who either you want to get, or you know, like Stephen King blurbs hundreds of books. I think he blurbed. Did he blurb Last House on Needless Street? Yeah. So like on the back of that, like Stephen King, true nerve shredder. But yeah, so blurbs of that, and if anyone's, well, I'd love to know who's charging people for a blurb and who they are, because if you're Joe Blogs and no one knows who you are, like, why am I paying you however much money to tell people what my book is like, when I could be getting a writer to tell people and they'd be like, oh, Chad Lutsky said this, or oh, Stephen King said that, or you know, Michael Clarke said this about this book. Oh, I like Michael Clarke. Let me check that out. So
yeah.
Well,
so how do people get Stephen King to blurb their book? How does that happen?
I'm not too sure. I'm assuming it's publicists that work for the press that contact them. But I also think quite a lot of writers, I don't know, and I'm not, you know, but I think quite a lot of writers get kind of, you know, you're signed up to, I don't know, Penguin Random House, so we're going to send you particular titles that we think would suit you, and you're gonna blurb that book for us, like almost like a contract type thing. Like, we'll send you books that we're going to do, and you blurb it, and then we'll use it if we need to. So I think it's kind of like that. And yeah, I'd love Stephen King to blurb my book. Maybe one day, who knows? We'll see.
That'd be great. She wrote Zombie, and she wrote a collection where she imitated the style of classic writers like Poe and Henry James and Ernest Hemingway. Those are good starting points. Wild Nights Story About the Last Days of is the title.
Okay.
I will check that out. Okay, yeah, I see zombie here. Good stuff. I'm gonna have a massive Amazon order after this.
all those films and books and DVDs
Yeah.
and everything.
Thankfully, I have Apple TV already. So with my phone, I think we got Apple TV with our phones.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can find that. Well, nice. Okay, check that out. Yeah. I'll have a big box of Amazon goodies coming to me soon.
Yeah, you'd have to do an opening. Be like, these are the books I ordered whilst I was on with Ross.
Yeah, we'll have a Ross special.
Yeah.
One writer said they sold the most books whenever someone posts a pic on social media of the book with cats or dogs. Now that I believe.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, and talking about cats and dogs, or just animals in general. Have you read Juniper, Steve? You might not have.
No, I have not. It's on my cart though.
Yeah, it's it's kind of it's being re-released through Stygian Sky Media with the kind of Daniel Serra covers, and I never realised how angry people get at cruelty to animals. And it's not overly aggressive. It's just, some cats meet some fates, and I never knew. Like, I'm not a big pet person. I love animals. I think they're great. And I never realised how much backlash I would get from Juniper. But I could do whatever I like to people.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like anything is on the cards. But as soon as that character kicks that cat, like, whew, I was like, oh no, what have I done? Like, I got this, like, and then I started fearing when I'd see people like posting that they'd got the book and there'd be a cat in the background. I'm like, oh, that's probably not for you. But it is what it is, and I got broad shoulders. I wasn't being horrible, but that's what happens. And but yeah, I was completely like, I was like, oh dear, like people really don't like anything happening to animals, but I could do anything I like to that guy. It was quite an eye opener. I never realized.
Yeah, I know a lot of people stopped watching Midnight Mass after I won't give it away, but there's a scene with some cats in it from Midnight
near
Mass.
The beginning. Yeah,
and a lot of people stopped watching after that,
yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because that's just like one brief, tiniest scene, and then it's kind of like you've given up on all that goodness just for that one bit.
Yeah.
And also, I have to say, like, you don't see any violence towards those cats. So if you're thinking about not watching Midnight Mass because of violence to animals, there's nothing of the such.
Yeah, no, there's no violence, just after.
Yeah, yeah. Just the aftermath.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away, but yeah. Well, Ross, hey, thanks for coming by. It's been a blast.
Yeah, you're more welcome. Yeah. Can't believe it's been 2.5 hours. Wow.
I know, it's been it just flies by. And let me know when you want to do it again. We'll do this again.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you everyone who's like put comments in and hung around for 2.5 hours and listened to me talking with like this cold and whatnot. But yeah, Steve, thank you as well for like what you do for authors and getting us on and chatting and building that kind of community. It's really great to see.
Yeah, it's my favorite part of this whole booktube thing is just this kind of thing, just talking about movies and books and music or whatever, just having it, shooting the shit. So
having a chat, yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us and chatting with us.